Good morning or afternoon. Astarion is standing here with the soup. And the plan for this video is to show you how to do some timeline editing for dialogues. So in order to do that, we probably need someone to talk to, right? And I prefer having my different resources and tabs to the right side, because once we start editing dialogues, we will need a lot more space and the timeline will be over here. You can just adjust this to your preferences. But let's find someone to talk to. And for this video, I thought that I would basically take you through the entire process. I have found that quite useful for myself, because if people just skip steps, you learn how to work with the timeline, but you might be missing other things, and it can be nice to see how other people do things to get some tips and tricks. And for this one, I am then in the root templates, and I would very much like to talk to a guy called Cassador. Let's see if we can find him. I have now selected a character. So let's see if there is a character in here called Cassador. There are the different spawn prisoners, Astarion, everyone. We have a shirtless Cassador. Maybe we'll go with a dressed Cassador for the occasion. I don't know if YouTube will accept the half-naked Cassador. So I will create new from selected, because we do not want to mess up the base files. I will put it in my mod, which is still a level 7. I will just call him test. I will create him and I will place him into the level. It's a good idea when placing characters or NPCs into the level, especially those that are enemies in the base game, to check that they don't immediately attack you. That can happen. But Cassador seems to be chill, and he is just hanging out. So let's make a dialogue for him. In order to make a dialogue, we are going into the dialogue editor, which is this speech bubble up here. And we can just start making it. So I have put in a greeting. So Cassador will say something to greet us. We will reply, and if we reply, that will be a question. And if he replies to that, that will be an answer. And then I think that we will have several questions for him. At least 2, maybe. And then an answer, and perhaps an answer, and let's make something up. These cannot be set to impossible, so we remove that. Which is a bit of a hassle to remember to remove impossible for all of them. I would think that there is a way to remove this impossible tag from every node you are making, but I haven't figured it out. Or more correctly, I haven't spent any time trying to figure it out. So let's do the cooking show trick, and I will insert some text into this dialogue. We have now made a little dialogue. Cassador will ask, as his greeting, "Why are you here?" We can reply, "None of your business, creep." He will answer, "You shall not talk to me in that manner, worm." And our choices will be to either punch Cassador or ask him if he needs a hug. If we punch him, he will reply angrily, and that will be the end node. If we ask him if he needs a hug, he will reply yes. We get the option to hug him, and he will look sad. We have to assign the speakers. So Cassador is now in our level. So let's see here, Cassador. Which one? Let's see. Yes, it's Vampire Spawn Male Cassador Test. He's not a spawn though, is he? But that will not be relevant for our little chat. Let's see. And players will be part of this conversation. Ta-da! So let's see if it worked out correctly. Cassador, players, ta-da! Cassador, punch him, group players. He replies. And yeah, so everything is set up correctly, but in this case, when the characters aren't speaking, wouldn't it be nice for the narrator to be the one speaking? So, for example, Cassador looks sad. Let's set that to narrator. Then you have to go into the sidebar here and select the 0 narrator. And yes, I think that will be good enough. So let's save this. We will call it level 7 Cassador chat. And then we will move to generate the timeline. And as I said in my previous video, you get a lot of invalid flag combinations, and I don't think that is entirely correct. This should probably be valid, so I just ignore it. And yeah, so now we are moving on to creating the timeline. We will go here. We will go to timeline. We will generate, and we go for full copper. I don't know what the difference between full and full copper is, but full copper sounds cooler, so let's do it that way. It will ask you which module to put the timeline in. And then we get this screen for timeline generation. And what we should pay attention to here is these parameters. By default, a template from some sort of demo will be in here, but we can put in a custom template. So how do we do that? That is the tricky part that I will explain to you in a bit of detail. So my approach for this has been to use the BG3 Modders multi-tool to extract files and templates from the base game. The Modders multi-tool is quite easy to use, and it has a very good set of instructions online on how to use it. In my case, I basically extracted everything, and then you will be able to find folders. Let's see, this is not it. Yeah, here it is. Okay, give me a little moment. You will be able to find folders. For example, under Gustav Dev, timeline generated. So these generated timelines, of which in this folder it's about 20,000 of them, will contain the timeline files from the base game. Most conversations in the base game are between two characters and contain different cameras. So this can be a very useful starting point for your timeline, and you can use them as a template. My approach has actually been to try to think about scenes from the base game where you could imagine a situation that suits your dialogue, and you can work from that. So let's see if we find something where Cassador is involved, for example. So as you can see, you can search in this folder and So I have found an LSX file, which is the ones you need to use. So don't don't try to use the LSX files. But I have found the Ritual Room Cassador scene file. So let's see if that could work as a template. So what I will do is copy it, and I never remember where the template is picked from. So let's just have a look. Yeah, timeline scenes. You could also put it in your mod, but I will paste it in here. It would be a copy. Just for my own sake, I just like to specify if this is a copy or not when I'm messing around with it. So okay, it's in there. Failed to load scene. Okay, so why is that? Yeah, well, we could load it, so let's see what happens. There are a lot of settings here. Let's just keep the defaults. And what happens now is that you see that a timeline shows up. And that takes us into the timeline part of the video. And I will try to explain what's going on here. So unfortunately, it can be a bit hard to see because now we have a lot of tabs open. So you might have to put this video in full screen, but I'll try to at least explain carefully. First of all, let's see what we now have to work with. If we want Cassador to have this dialog, we have to select it, go into sidebar, and we can choose this as his default conversation, which means that when we interact with him, our conversation will trigger. It's down here, and you can just click, and we called it Cassador Chat, didn't we? So, yeah. Not a good name for it because Cassador is mentioned many times, but just put something unique for your mod here. And I've used level 7. It's a bit easier to find it then. We still have, I made a fight with the ghost earlier, and then we have the soup chat from the last video, but we are doing the Cassador chat, right? So this should now work. So let's go into play mode. Whoop. Ignore the warnings. And let's click on him and see what happens. Okay, so Astarion and Cassador are standing inside of each other, but the dialogue is... that is wild. The dialogue is triggering. None of your business, creep. Yeah, Cassador is replying. You shall not talk to me in that matter, worm. You can punch him. Okay, yeah. And then the other... Do you need a hug? Yeah. Hug him. Okay, so obviously we have to do a bit of work to get this timeline working, right? And then I thought about it for 2 seconds, and I realized that if we are starting off with being inside of Cassador, we are creating a lot of issues for ourselves. So maybe we want to try a different timeline instead, right? So let's go out of the player. Let's just save. Yeah, if this crashes, go back to the dialogue, and you can go to timeline, and we will make a new one. So we're here, select a custom template. I have copied another one that has worked very well before. It's, I mean, there are endless possibilities for timeline templates, but this one is from a Dark Urge scene. Select it, let's see. Okay, let's try to speak to him again. Yeah, okay, so now we are not inside of Cassador, which at least makes me happy early in the morning. It pans to Astarion, which is good, and then we can reply, none of your business. Yeah, it looks to Cassador. We can punch him. What happens? Oi. What happens if we select the do you need a hug? Yeah, he does. Okay. He looks sad. Good. So this is probably a good timeline to start with. As you can see, the sidebar has turned completely white, and it's quite an eyesore. And we don't really need this stuff right now, so I will just pull it to the side. We don't really need the preview either. We'll keep it down here. And you have perhaps seen something show up here. Okay, so this field over here, the timeline preview, will show us what's going on with the timeline. Cassador is looking proper scary in the sunlight. You can see that what we are looking at right now are the active pilot camera shots with the default active stage. You can change this. Now we are looking at just the scene in general. You can see where the camera is. And there are different things you can do here. But this will be very useful for us when we are testing our timeline. The challenge is to lay things out in a way where you have an overview of what you're doing. Let's have a closer look at the timeline. You see here now we have a timeline panel. This is like our video editor for the conversation. Here in playlist, you see the different lines of dialogue. So you can imagine each of these as a different scene in a movie. So you can pan to the different ones. And what you can see here inside, not much is happening. But that will change once we get to know the stuff here on the left. if you press Control and zoom in, it's a bit easier to work with the different tracks. You should open up speakers. So you have Cassador, you have players, and you have the narrator. The peanuts, I believe, are these 3 other characters that could be with you. I usually ignore them, but they could be useful in your project, perhaps. And then you want to look at the cameras. This scene, or this timeline, has 3 cameras attached to it. You can see that for this first line, it's the Cam Subject 1 MCU that's being used. And if you click on this little camera icon here, you can see that this timeline preview changes. So one very important thing to remember, and it's really easy to get confused with this, is that when you are working on changing something, it's a really good idea to have the camera you're actually editing something in active in this little preview, because you want to see what's happening, right? You can change to the other cameras as well. So this would be the camera that's being used for the Cassador face close-up. And then this is the camera looking at the player. So we are in-game right now, we are Astarion, but this guy is his representation in the preview. I would have to say that it does take quite a while to become confident in working with the timeline. And I think you should give yourself some grace and just mess around with it. It's nice to start with a simple conversation and a template that kind of works to start with. We are going to do a lot of different things, but let's talk about what we want first. So we have a quite emotional conversation with Cassador, right? With different choices. And when we meet him, we quite want him to look a little bit angrier than this, right? So the camera is already looking at him, but how can we make him look angry? Go to speakers, and then there is this little arrow here. So then you can expand what's going on with Cassador, right? And you see that a lot of new tracks have appeared. So this timeline editor is impressively powerful. I was amazed to see what you can do, but it is a little bit tricky to figure out how to use it effectively. One of the easiest things you can do is go in here and add emotions to the characters. So you just click it and then properties, emotion. Right now Cassador is being neutral, but perhaps we want him to be angry. Yeah? Oh, that looks scary. Yeah, okay, so now you see in the preview he's looking a little bit angry. We can see that through the glare of the sunlight behind him. So let's go with angry for now. We can also put in attitudes, which is kind of how the character is posed with some animations. So shall we perhaps choose alarmed? Okay, so now he has crouched down and he is surprised to see us. So these 2 things, his emotion event and attitude event, is now part of this node in the dialog. And this would perhaps be a good point to test that, right? Save it. Let's talk to him. Was it? Oh yeah, okay. So you can see that he is now both angry and crouched in a different way. So it's good practice to just go through the dialogue. It gets a little bit buggy if you go out. Like if you stop playing in the middle of a dialogue, then you might have to reload the level to start over. So let's think about what happens to Astarion as this is going on, right? So that would be group players. I don't think Astarion would look entirely neutral in the situation, so perhaps he should be surprised. Okay, so why can't we see what's going on with him now, right? The camera isn't looking at him, but we saw that the camera did pan to him after meeting Cassador, so perhaps it's one of these cameras let's have a look. This one, right? So the cam player is looking at the player, and we want Astarion to look surprised, and perhaps his attitude should be, let's see, maybe aggressive. Yeah, standing forward, being a little bit aggressive. Let's try it again. Yeah. So if you just leave this, you could see that the Pandora did cam to Astarion, right? No, okay, so none of your business. Yeah. So Astarion is now looking proper angry. But we want that to change, right? So we want to ask if he needs a hug, and we want to punch him. So maybe we will have Cassador be sad when we ask if he needs a hug. And I switched to the node where he says yes to a hug. We're still seeing the player. And so this is a really good time to check that, okay, cam subject 1 CU is what we should be looking at in this situation. He's looking proper angry. We don't want that. We want him to be sad for accepting the hug, right? So let's go and add an emotion. Very sad. You can play around with this. You'll find your favorites quickly, I think, but now he should be looking sad. And his attitude, so let's change his pose a little bit. What is this called? Yeah, he's cold. Yeah, he wants a warm hug. All right. And at this point, I think Astarion's reactions should change as well. So maybe Astarion isn't angry anymore. So how can we check that? The camera isn't really looking at him for this yes line, but around the same time, the camera that is looking at Astarion should do, let's see, maybe he's a little sad as well, or surprised. I would be surprised if Cassador wanted a hug. Perhaps not that surprised, but not happy, but maybe like that. All right? And let's add an attitude. So perhaps we could find an attitude that looks like he is offering a hug. Or maybe we make him stand forward. Yeah. At least he's moving. Okay. And this would be the punch scene where you say, well, where Cassador says, "You vermin." Let's see if we can do anything about that. Here, you see he's sad by default now, but if we press the little green thing and we add angry again. And make sure to switch the camera in the preview. This scene will be looking at cam subject MCU. Very angry. But we did just punch him, so maybe that's appropriate. Like that, yeah. And an attitude event, perhaps. So you see, he just stood up, standing forward now by default. So let's see. Will you want him to crouch? That could be good, because then we can use this to play around with moving the camera later. Okay, it's panning down to him. He is proper angry. And let's see. Let's see how this plays out now, right? Okay, so when it says hug Cassador, because we're missing the hug and we're missing a punch, right? Let's see if we can get that in there. So the Cassador looks sad part is tied to him getting a hug. So now we will do something completely new to us, which is to add an animation for a hug. Yeah, so he's looking sad. and he's down on his knees. See how that works out. The new thing we are going to do is to add an animation. And that is on Astarion, that is the player. Just go to track, add animation, body, and you will see animation shows up down here. And you have to add it to, like you have to find something. So, there are a lot of different animation for hugs. Yeah, so, short, strong, tall. I am actually not sure which one will be better, but see, let's try this one. So now we have put in a scene, an animation that shows up in the timeline, and we can play this one. But nothing is happening in the preview, right? Oh yeah, it is. So, oh no, YouTube, that's not good. All right, but yeah, it's trying to hug Cassador, right? And Cassador is sitting down and is not wearing any clothing. So yeah. Okay, so we have to make Cassador stand up for this one, right? So attitude event, he's standing up. Okay, just let him stand up. You see it appeared at the end there, but I just dragged it here, but yeah, you can move it. And now the animation is looping, and we don't know what this looks like because it's the wrong camera for the scene. So we want to look at cam player CU. Let it pan back. Yeah, he's walking, he's hugging. All right, so what will that actually look like if we try to play the game? He's ready for a hug. Let's try to hug him. Astarion is walking forward. He is hugging Cassador, but we did not really see. So something was wrong with the camera, right? So we will adjust that later. We will just add the punch as well. Okay, so we are going to add a punch. Cassador will reply, "You vermin." Astarion will be the one punching, which means that once again we have to add an animation. Body, animation. Just try punch. Yeah, so many punches. You see one is receive punch, so that sounds like something we should put on Cassador later. Maybe just a simple throw punch. Like so. What will it look like? Well, we have to look at the right camera. That would be cam subject 1. Okay, Astarion is now throwing a punch. Let's press play. Yeah, so indeed, a punch has been thrown. So let's add to Cassador that he will receive this punch. Add animation, body, yeah. We saw it show up when receive punch, right? Receive punch to prone. Sounds like a very good idea for him to fall down after being punched. It also makes us feel good, which is nice. Let's see what happens. Yeah, so at least it looks like, oh yeah, he falls to the floor. Very good. That's what we want. Let's save it. And now let's have a look at what happens in the conversation. Let's punch him. Yeah. He falls to the ground. And what you might notice now is that we kind of have the components we want for this conversation. It feels really good to punch him, it feels very disturbing to hug him, but the camera isn't really looking at the right thing. So now for the next part of the video we are going into the camera controls, which is also something that takes a long time to understand, and I will try my best to at least explain how I understand them. Okay, so the camera settings. Where did we have a problem? I can remember that both the hug and the punch was zoomed way too much in, right? So let's start with the hug one. you see here on the side, there are different cameras, and they are just in 3 lines. This would be cam subject 1 CU that we're looking at. So now let's track it, all right? We can add a transform. You can choose infinite or finite. So for this one, we are adding 1. The transform opens up and you have a lot of different options. And this is why this editor is so extremely powerful and a little bit confusing. And you have to add these things. So click the plus. A track now appears where we can change all of these things. So sometimes when you're messing around in here, you add these translations and they show up at the end of the track, so just move them. And these will help you move the camera. Rotation also helps you move the camera, and you can also set the scale. So what we want to do, right, as this hug is playing, is to move the camera out a little bit, and remembering or seeing what is XY set in your level is actually quite challenging. You have to play around with it a little bit. You can get a hint from down here actually. For items, it does say something about its position in this plane of its existence, and also the rotation. So to understand the rotation, I think actually it can be quite useful to just think about rotating objects. If you look at Cassador, there is actually this little thing you can click to rotate items, and the colors here correspond to the colors down here. So for example, the X plane will be this red one, huh? Yeah, let's not move him too much. Yeah, I moved him back. And the Y corresponds to this green one, like moving him around, and the Z would be then moving him the other way. And this can be a little bit helpful to understand it. You can also like move him backwards and forwards, right? And when we do that with the camera, we are moving in different directions in the plane, right? Or moving the camera around. That would be rotation. This is probably what can be the most infuriating when working with the camera, but let's give it a shot. Okay, the hug thing is playing over here. We have the right camera activated, and what we would like to do is perhaps move the camera out a little bit and just remember the original value, and we can try to move it a bit. Oop. Okay, so this is probably not the right one, right? Because now we are panning way around. I set it back to 1.7. Okay, so what if we do like 1.8? Is anything happening? Can we still see him? Yeah, so it moved it a bit up. So say we put 1.5. Yeah, so it's down. So this is probably not what we want to change. Let's go for Z. That's minus 0.5. So let's try minus 1. We are now much closer to Cassador, so then we can imagine that it's moving in this direction. Perhaps we want minus 0.7. Okay, we are still really, really close, but perhaps this is a better view, so maybe it's the X position then. So that's minus 0.4 approximately. Let's put it to 0. Okay, now we're really close, right? So perhaps if we put 2, are we then further out? Nope. Yeah. Okay, now we see one of the peanuts in the background. And yeah, so we have now zoomed out from Cassador. We are still looking at Starion. But this could work, right? If we could get the camera to look a bit more to the side. So then we could do rotate, or we could do something else. We could add this, let's see, look at. Add a look at. Do we want it to look at Cassador, perhaps? Maybe that will work. Let's try to play it now. That didn't really work, so let's try to rotate the camera a bit. Yeah. So my problem is that I never remember what direction these things rotate in. If you're mathematically inclined or good with vectors or something, you probably know this a lot better than me, but I usually just play around with the numbers. You see, like, is it now moving? Yeah, it is moving a bit. Maybe this will be good. Whoop, not. Maybe something like this. And you can also just slide. Yeah. Perhaps the X position. That moves it up and down. Not exactly what we want. Y position up and down. Yeah. So the Y position will be good for us here. I'm slowly moving it. Yeah. Okay. So as you can see, we are now with the Y position. So to see it. Okay. So let's have a look at this. He is ready for his hug. Yeah, it's happening. So you could see some clipping, right? And Cassador is not receiving the hug very nicely, but this has taken us a lot further than we were when we started this scene. There are different ways to solve this, and actually, you know, if you use the free cam in the base game, you can also see a bit of clipping. So even Larian will sometimes use camera angles to avoid showing the clipping. So that is something you can do. But I think we will leave the hug bond here, and then we will work on the punch, right? So we have gotten quite far. He angrily responds to the punch. That would be the cam subject 1 MCU that we're using here. So let's track it, see what happens. The punch scene ends with Cassador on the ground. Let us then add the transform. Yeah. Let's check that it's set to infinite. Because, like, have a look at this. Oh, yeah, okay, it worked. Okay, so I don't know if you actually have to set it to infinite, but it's important that you get these little circles to put in your controls. Okay. He stands up. He is punched. He falls down. But we would like to see more. Let's play around with this again. Okay, if it's set to infinite, you can add your rotation. Okay, so our challenge here is that this is a 3-dimensional space. Okay, so the x-axis will move the camera a bit further out here. Yeah, so maybe that's good. Maybe -2 is good. You don't want it too far out. And then we want it to actually look at the right thing. There are 2 different ways to do this. You can change the look at, or you can change the axis, basically, X, Y, Z, or rotate the camera. I am just going to play around with it. Oop, sorry YouTube. 1.5 maybe. Yeah, so maybe that's good. Okay, So let's try it like this. Let's have a look at the conversation now. Let's punch him. Yeah. So I mean, as you can see, the punch doesn't exactly connect, but depending on your camera angles, you can make it look like it does, and Cazador responds to it. So I think this will be where we end the guide to creating the timeline. But we want to do one more thing, and that is to change the lighting. Because right now, Cazador and Astarion are having a conversation in a very nice and bright environment. And we don't want that. We want it to be dark and scary, don't we? So how do we do that? Well, I'm sure there are many different ways, but we can change the lighting for the scene. So let's just close the timeline and everything and get rid of the nude guy, right? And I bring my sidebar out again. And I will go actually to the place where I can find, actually not the work atmosphere panel, but what's part of my world, because there is lighting in my world. And you can find it here. So these are the different lighting triggers, and changing them is actually really, really simple. It's just hard to find the first time around. So how do we do it? Okay, it's the atmosphere trigger and it's the lightning trigger. Lighting. Okay, atmosphere trigger. Select it, go to the sidebar. We have now selected the atmosphere trigger, and what is it using? It has a lot of atmospheres attached to it. Let's just, remove all of them. I quite like the Gale God one. Let's see. Is it Dusk Gale Heaven? It might be. Oop, very bright. Perhaps it's not that one. So I'm keeping all of these errors in here because then you see the process. So I think that this is just the atmosphere. Perhaps we should have been smart and done the lighting trigger first. Okay, lighting trigger. Sidebar. Let's see. Lots of different things here. And of course you might want your trigger to have a lot of different options, but just for the sake of this guide, let's try to add one. Let's make it nighttime. Yeah, okay. It's now dusk, but it's not quite dark enough, is it? Dusk Gale Heaven, maybe? Yeah. This is properly creepy, isn't it? And the shadows are showing up and everything. Let's try the conversation again. None of your business. Let's punch him. Yep. Let's try to hug him. All right. Yeah, so that's it. We have made a guide on how to hug and punch Cazador and make it look a little bit more realistic than just the characters standing up and talking to each other. And the possibilities here are endless. And you can play around with it for a very, very long time. But I hope you enjoyed this introduction. It took me a long while to get to this point. And that's it. So there are lots of other things you can do. You can add effects. You could add lightning, and you could add some items, whatever you want. If you have any requests for guides, or you want some specific questions answered about the timeline or the cameras or anything like that, feel free to comment or ask me on Discord. And in the Discord community, there are so many nice people who know a lot more than me. So if you are getting into modding with Moonglasses, I highly recommend the Discord. And yeah, thanks for watching.